Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, except I think I'm going to change the name of the program for today, Leading in Challenging Situations, because many times we know of people who are involved in a challenging situation and you find resources you didn't even think about. And our guest today is Deidre Stanley, and Deidre is director of the Search and Rescue Dog Association. And they were recently involved in a search and rescue of a Silver Alert victim who ended up, they found him, but he had drowned. For unfortunate ending, but they used the search and rescue dogs to do that. But Deidre, welcome to our program today.
Thank you.
You know, that sort of brought to light the different resources we have, not only in our community, but across the state, to be able to help in situations that are certainly challenging, but they can be difficult and they can be surprising and you're not expecting them. How did the Search and Rescue Dog Association get started?
In 1991, Dave Meek founded Kansas Search and Rescue Dog Association, and with the express purpose of helping law enforcement, because they don't have the resources that we do. And so we train dogs to find people, live and dead. And then we are a free resource to law enforcement across the state. We've also gone to other states as well. So, you know, they'll call us and we'll go to Missouri for a search or Oklahoma. So.
Well, that is, you know, the process of doing that usually involves something that is a catastrophic storm. You'll see this sometimes where search and rescue dogs are looking for victims that are in rubble, victims, etc. In the case that we just had a couple weeks ago here, it was a gentleman that had wandered away from home and was here in town, and so they called you. And how does that process work? Does a call from the sheriffs or the police department? How do you get involved?
Right. So just a call from local law enforcement, or firefighters. Occasionally we'll get calls from them. And I will rally the troops and we will have boots on the ground. So it's as fast as we can get there. Of course, Hayes is far from some of our people. We have a few people that live in Kansas City, so they had to drive from there, you know, but yeah, we're a free resource. We come right out, get our dogs going. This was a wilderness search, so it's a little different from disaster, but I do have dogs trained for disaster as well. So if we've got a collapsed house, I can get dogs out there for that too.
Wow. So you said a wilderness search, obviously outside looking for somebody who has walked away from somewhere, which was the case here. How does that actually work? You show up in this case, coming from Kansas City, you show up, what happens next?
So we show up, we get with local law enforcement and we get a map of the area. We find out what area they want us to cover. We split it up and we work those areas with our dogs. Usually it's a couple of humans, like the handler, the dog, and then a flanker. And the flanker, you know, runs the radio and the compass and keeps everybody safe. And then if we find someone, they render first aid.
Well, in this case, it was an older gentleman. You can't show a picture. Obviously, the dog's not looking for that. How do you get the scent put together so that the dog knows what to
our
do?
wilderness dogs are different. There's scent specific dogs and then there's non-scent specific. And our wilderness dogs are non-scent specific. So my dog is a wilderness dog. So I release him and tell him to search and he will find anyone in that area. So if there's a homeless person that's living there that we didn't know about, he'll find them too. He'll also find, you know, we've had mushroom hunters. So we reward the dog and move on to the next person. But yeah, it happens where we sometimes find people we weren't looking for. But the dogs don't have to have a scent to find the person. They can. And we do have scent specific dogs. Those are usually trailing dogs. So our trailing dogs, we give them a scent article of the person's clothing, or we can even get scent off of like the seat belts in the vehicles. and then send them to find that specific person. So they're
Well,
going
that's
to
so,
follow the trail the person went.
that's so interesting because, you see see things TV obviously doesn't show everything how it works, but, in this case, your dog is looking for a human scent, not necessarily a specific human scent, but a human scent and doing
Yep.
that. And so that must include anything around water or close to water leading to that. And how does that work in that specific situation?
So water makes the scent, it travels. And so the scent goes with the water. So
Hmm.
if it's moving fast, the dog may give us lots of, you know, hints that there's something there along the river before we get to the person. And in this case, they called out live find dogs. So my live find dogs were working this area. It was wilderness, heavy brush. Um, and we had people on both sides of the creek. And we had a live find dog find him this time, which is unusual.
Hmm.
Usually after 24 hours, our live find dogs won't indicate. So she didn't indicate, but she did tell her handler that she found something. She kept coming up and sitting. And the handler was like, I don't know what she's doing. That's not normal. But she said, let's just have somebody check it out. And from the other side. And sure enough, that's when we were able to find him.
And,
So
that's in many ways unfortunate story, but end of the day, it is fortunate for the family to be able to put this and understand what went going on and helping families in all sorts of different situations. But I could ask 1,000 questions. So, maybe that's my job, but I just enjoy this because those dogs were trained specifically to do different tasks.
correct.
My dog, if you open a Ritz cracker package, that dog can hear it from across the house and will be right there to help you with your Ritz cracker. These dogs are much better in a sense of specific training. How do you train them and where do you do that?
We train all over Kansas, because that's where we work. So we start when they're very little puppies, as soon as they've had all their shots and it's safe for them to be out. We start training them. And the first thing we train is their trained final response because we want to be able to add that into the training later. So we start that really quick. So my dog's trained final response is a bark. And then, so he'll bark at the person he finds, and then he'll come back and bark at me and bring me to them. So we trained him to bark for his toy. And then we take the toy and we have somebody take that and run away with it where he sees, and then he goes and he barks and he gets his toy. And then we start, taking the picture and changing it to you're not going to see the person, and make it longer and longer and longer until they can certify. And these are all, FEMA equivalent certifications. So they're hard certifications, but I want it to be that way because these are the dogs you want your family to be, looked for by, because these are the ones that are going to find them.
How many dogs do you have out there?
We have about 18 on our team. Not all of them are certified, but we've got about 15 that are.
And you have two of
The
them in
others
your
are
own
puppies.
family, right?
Right.
And tell us about your dogs.
My dogs are black labs, and they have been training their whole lives for this. Mine is named Finnegan, and he's 8 years old now. We're getting ready to test again in the fall. We have to recert every 2 years for what we do. My husband's dog is named Dashel, and he is a cadaver dog. He's trained to find dead people. And he is 4. So I'm actually getting ready to start a puppy sometime in probably next year, because you retire them at about 10 years.
That's just fascinating stuff, Deidre. And your association is funded how?
We are funded by donations completely. And if people would like to donate to us, we would love to have that. And so on our website, it's ksarda.org, ksarda.org. There's a button, a donate button. and anybody can go out there and donate to us. We need that. We have, to pay insurance. We have to pay for a vehicle. Because we have a little ATV that we use for transporting dogs and people we find. And so we definitely need that funding, or we can't do it without it.
Well, it's a very interesting subject, especially when you look at things in the time of need when that happens. Say, how do we do this? And dogs, are you ever just surprised by what your dogs do and how smart they are to do this?
I am always amazed at how talented these dogs are. They're so smart. People underestimate them, but yes, they're very talented at what they do. They're very high drive, so they're a little hard to live with sometimes. My husband's dog barks a lot. But it is part of search to have a high drive dog. We want them to want to work. So we deal with a lot of like Malinois and, German Shepherds and dogs that want to work for a living, so that we can get them to do this. So,
well, I'm going to take a quick break here and come back, and I want to find out and ask you, so our listeners and viewers have a chance to maybe log in and take a look at all the things that you do, you and your 18 dogs and the team that go with them, because every dog you mentioned has several people. It takes a group to do that, and it's usually in a crisis situation or certainly a challenging one. So hang on there, Deidre. I'll be right back after this.
okay, thank you.
Our program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management. We'll be back in a minute.
The most successful investors are those that can keep their emotions in check and take a longer-term view at what portfolios will be worth 3 to 5 years down the road. I'd say that's the most important in determining what investor outcomes are. Market corrections will continue in the future. We've seen many of them over the years, only to see equity prices rise higher, and that'll be the case in the future.
Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times, which we've renamed today Challenging Situations, because we're talking with Deidre Stanley, and she's head of the Search and Rescue Dog Association, and they've been involved recently in a search and rescue attempt here in the Hayes area, but they're also all over the state doing search and rescue missions. Deidre, as we've been talking about, it's a group of people, 18 dogs across the state. When they're needed. And how do people find out more about this?
If they go out to our website, Kansas Search and Rescue Dog Association, there's pictures of our dog teams, lists of the certifications that we have. There's pictures of our dogs. Also on our Facebook page, if they just look us up on Facebook, Kansas Search and Rescue Dog Association, we have lots of pictures and videos of them training, and little announcements about, when we're certified and different things like that. So, I think they might actually enjoy that Facebook page quite a bit. There's lots of dog pictures out there.
If you like dogs, it sounds like a place to go, especially like dogs that are well trained and can do that. And I know some of it is, you talk about the dogs being good. I mentioned that. The trainers have a big role to play in this. I could take your dog and would not get the same response without spending time with your dog to understand what your dog's trying to say. I know they like to talk to us, but they can't, so they have to have their own vision. Does it take a special person to do that, or just somebody that wants to spend the time with a dog?
It takes a lot of dedication. We train about once a week, so yeah, it takes a dedicated person. And you do have to have a special bond. And these dogs are our dogs. We own our canine partners, so we're not, picking them up at a kennel before we head out to search. They're at home with us. So you do have to have a bond with them. You have to know how to read their body language. They're really good at reading our body language. So we have to get good at reading theirs so that we can know what they're doing and what they're trying to tell us.
Deidre, thank you for being a part of our program today, and thank you for the great work you do, not only recently in Hayes, but across the state, helping families when they're in need, helping people when they're in need, helping communities, whether it be disasters or whatever, to be a part of that. So appreciate what your association does. And I hope if you're listening there, watching here, go to the website, and it's Kansas Search and
Search and
Rescue Dog
Rescue.
Association, right?
That's correct.
Spell that out for me, because it doesn't necessarily come naturally when you take a look at the sign. Tell me again and how to get there.
It's Kansas Search and Rescue Dog Association, and we call it CASARDA. It's, it's an acronym. And so if you go out to casarda.org, that's our website. But if you look us up on Facebook, we're going to be Kansas Search and Rescue Dog Association.
All right. Proud of the work you do, Deidre, and keep it up, and hope some people go that way and help support you and what you do.
Thank you so much.
Deidre Stanley is our guest today. We're talking about search and rescue dogs. We're talking about how they do so many important things for us. If you can go to their website, their Facebook page, take a look, and maybe even hit that donate button. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. You're listening and watching Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.